I want to talk some more about prayer. Prayer is not getting what you want, necessarily. It is said that God knows what you want before you even know, before you even are aware of it. And that's true. Usually we're trapped in some kind of suffering and we want to get out of it. We either want to get away from something or obtain something that will help. And if we could get it easily, or if we could get away easily, we wouldn't need prayer because we managed it ourselves, basically, or at least it appeared that way. If I'm hungry, I can just go have a sandwich, not a problem. If I'm hungry and there's no food, then I need to find food. If I'm hungry and I need food, but I can't find food, and there's no visible source of it, I might start thinking about praying about it. That's pretty typical. Like, as a relative being, my power, my ability to obtain food is limited sufficiently that I need help. And that there's no one else around, or at least no one that'll help me. So I think, well, maybe God will help me. And that's usually where prayer comes in. So often when we pray, we're at the limit of ourselves. We're at the limit of our ability to do anything about our situation. And I've said that the truest form of prayer is, in my experience, some form of, I don't know what to do, please help. And it's the not knowing, it's a surrender. Like, I can't do it. And I don't know what to do. And I know what I want, but I don't know how to obtain it. And that wanting needs to be surrendered so that everything is surrendered. And I just allow what is to be at a deeper level and turn to whatever sense of divinity we can understand or comprehend or intuit. When I was about 10 years old, 11 years old, something like that, my brother taught me the Lord's Prayer. I didn't know it. And we went for a long walk down a country road one time, and he taught me the Lord's Prayer. For those who don't know, the Lord's Prayer is from the Bible. It's a very typical Christian prayer. It starts with the words, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, and so on. The one I learned is a little different from the one that you hear in Orthodox situations. The part about forgiving our trespassers, the way I learned it, and I've said this, but my family had gone to the Christian Science Church, and I think theirs was a little different. And no, it's not a cult. We didn't go to church religiously. It was just every now and then. I always think that's funny. We didn't go to church religiously. And again, my takeaway from that as a small boy was God is love. So if you want to know what the takeaway is from the Christian Science Church, it's God is love. And I think that's good. In the version I learned, it was, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, instead of trespassers, those who trespass against us. It doesn't matter. So the exact words don't really exactly matter. It's pretty common. You could learn it. You could just Google it and learn it. And you don't have to. It doesn't mean that you're a Christian, that you have to start going to church. You can if you want to. This channel is not about religion. It's about, I kind of want to say SBNR, spiritual but not religious. Except that you could be religious. It doesn't matter. It's the spiritual part that matters, though. It's possible to be conventionally religious but not really spiritual, to just be in it for material reasons, like you just want to get a date or something. Maybe not the best reason. It's not a terrible reason, but, or for power, political power, to appear pious and holy before people. I don't recommend that, but anyway, my brother taught me the Lord's Prayer on this long walk down a country road. He taught me in portions, like stages, like the first part, second part, and so on, until I knew it. And I think it was the next day, I had a baseball game. I played Little League Baseball. And it was a really important game against a team that we rarely ever won against. This was a really formidable team. that practice year-round. They were very good. We were good, but we were generally considered the underdog in that game. And it was late in the game, and I was sitting on the bench because I used to pitch, and I think I'd pitched, and then they took me out of the game, and there was someone else in there. Anyway, I was on the bench, and there was another kid in there with me, and we were cheering on our team from the dugout. And there were no outs, and the bases were loaded. So the other teams at bat were in trouble. So for those who don't know the game of baseball, each runner that runs home is a point. So there's runners on first, second, third. Bases are loaded. If they score one run, they tie the game. If they score more than that, they can win. So I was sitting in the dugout, and it just occurred to me, and again, I'm like 10, maybe 11 years old, and I just learned the Lord's Prayer for my brother. And within myself, I thought, I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to say the Lord's Prayer. Why not? I mean, it's very innocent. I was just a kid. So I was sitting there, and quietly to myself, I said the Lord's Prayer as sincerely as I knew how to do, and felt a certain peace with it, whatever. Let it go. Opened my eyes and was clapping like, all right, come on, guys. And then I turned to my friend, my teammate, and I said, what we need right now is a triple play, which is a rare play where you get 3 outs. There's one hit, and boom, 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 3 outs. And it's uncommon. I don't know how rare it is, but very rare. Double plays, they're uncommon, but they do happen pretty commonly. Triple plays rarely ever happen. So I said to my friend, what we need now is a triple play. And right then, there's a crack of the bat, and they hit right into a triple play. Line drive, shortstop catches it, tosses it to the second baseman, then throws it to first, something like that. I think it ended the game. I think it was the 9th inning. It was the most dramatic thing that you could experience in Little League Baseball, probably. I noticed that. Now, I can't prove that the prayer caused that to happen, but it got my attention. I've had other experiences growing up where I was in a tight situation. I'm not going to tell a bunch of stories, but it got my attention, like maybe there's something to this. So I used to sometimes pray when I was in a situation where I was stuck. And I've seen what appear to be miracles happen. Miracle's a strong word, so unexplainable events that just resolves whatever the situation was in a completely unexpected way. I want to focus on the part in the Lord's Prayer where it says, "Thy will be done." Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, is what it says. Thy will be done. So to whom are we speaking? The idea is we're talking to God. I'm saying we have to let go of personal control. It's letting go of thinking that we know or that we can know that allows something to happen. And then we intuit into a higher power, some kind of divinity. It's something that we become aware of in our practice. And we surrender. We say, in a sense, thy will, not mine. This channel focuses on non-duality, so it's not like there's you and this cosmic something. There's no division there. There's just one reality appearing as two. So what we're doing is we're letting go of a false reality. The world appears to be solid. It appears to have its own power. It doesn't. Because consciousness is the fundamental reality, everything is an emanation of consciousness. When we let go of that limited sense of self, we become aware of the reality of it, which is that, in a sense, all is one, and yet there aren't any parts, there aren't any divisions. There's just that one reality. We intuit that, and we give over whatever control or power we may sense in our lives to that. We acknowledge it. Thy will be done. Because the world doesn't have its own power and it's just an appearance, it has a fluid nature. It can shift, it can change. I wanted to use this as an example. This is a kaleidoscope, and I gave this as a gift to my mother, who is no longer with us. I think it's really pretty, but I wish I could show you, actually. It'd be really cool to show you. You'd look through it and see. But this part, these are, I guess, relatively cheap gemstones, or I think they're just colored pieces of glass. But you look through like this, and it manifests as this fracturing of light, like this multitude of images. We've all seen a kaleidoscope, I think. You can imagine what it is. What I'm saying is prayer is, in a sense, I wrote about this in my book, 10 Paths to Freedom. When we surrender, we acknowledge the reality that is the fundamental truth of who we are, pure consciousness, suchness, truth itself, and letting go of that relative sense of power, and it shifts. So what shifts? Our mind shifts. It's just that the world is an outpicturing of our mind. It doesn't shift apart. In other words, there may be this vast array of objects that we call the world. It's not like one thing changes and everything else stays the same, like it's static. At a fundamental level, the entire thing shifts. It's at a deeper level than our mind. We connect with the underlying reality, the truth of it. As I've mentioned, I grew up in the Christian Science church, and my mother taught me a certain kind of prayer. It's affirmative prayer, where the affirmation isn't something that you want to see happen, like I am a billionaire, something like that, and you somehow mentally try to force it to happen. It's not that at all. So I'm not advocating that. And I may get into that at some point, why that is an error, basically speaking. You're mentally trying to force the world to conform to your ideas. It's a recognition of a fundamental truth. One that she taught me was, and it's based on a Bible verse, I forget which one, but it's, God goes before me to make the crooked places straight. So what does that mean, God goes before me? It means before time is, before things appear, in the unmanifest, God being the unmanifest reality, the fundamental truth of who we are, in the unmanifest, before time begins, prior to thought, feeling, sensation, before Abraham was I am, the shift occurs. It's hard to actually describe it. Before I can think, it's solved for me. Why? Because God is absolute truth, reality, and is infinite and in some sense harmonious, whole, one, omniscient, omnipotent. It's a recognition of that omnipotence, power, presence, and a letting go of personal desire, and it shifts. Before I can think, there's no personal control of that. So I can't really know what's going to happen. So I've let go of that too. I've even let go, if I can, of the sense of I that's some kind of grasping about what, quote unquote, I want to happen. Surrender that. Because whatever I've done hasn't worked, or I wouldn't be praying about it. Or I'm apparently powerless. I'm in the dugout. What can I do? Well, who am I? What is this? It appears, whatever it is that we need, is the idea. So God knows what we want before we can even know. So we surrender to that. And like the kaleidoscope, if you look through a kaleidoscope and you see it, like I'm looking at a set pattern, when you shift it, the entire thing shifts all at once. There's not one part of the scene that doesn't change. And it's a wholeness that you're seeing. And the whole thing shifts. It appears as many fragments of light, and it's beautiful. That's the way the world is. The power is in the light, and the world is projected. We are that fundamental reality that is capable of shifting that. We just have to let go of a personal sense that's trying to control it. Turn to the higher power. And it's not something over or above us. It's just reality. There's reality and there's illusion. We let go of the illusion and it shifts and reveals more reality to us, which tends to manifest as harmony in our experience. And we can't really prove it. If we could prove it scientifically, I think we'd all be doing it. If we somehow go in a lab and watch it happen, it's just who's watching it happen and what is the mental state of someone who's observing an event. I'll just leave that there and you can reflect on that. Do I recommend that we pray for awakening? Well, do you want to wake up? I mean, if you want to, yeah. I would just let go of trying to hold on to your idea about what that is. You intuit there's a freedom that's possible, some kind of enlightened state of consciousness, something like that. Some kind of waking up to reality. You intuit that so you can pray for that realization and just let it go. You're letting go of the outcome because you don't know what it is. And that might sound like an insult. Like, what do you mean I don't know what it is? You cannot know what it is. I don't know what it is. See, I'm saying I don't know what it is. The language is dualistic. As a person that has thoughts, ideas, it's like, what's this object out here that we're calling awakening? It's not that at all. It's just when I say it, we're forced to use language that's dualistic that way, subject, object. So the realization occurs prior to that. And then that relative scene changes to reflect the harmonious nature of consciousness.